You may have done these in a chemistry class last year, but because last year was a weird year, you may not have. Are you ready?
How do we know how many blocks to use?
He says, how do we know how many blocks to use? So we don't, as long as we account for all the blocks. So the amount of blocks you start with should be the amount of blocks you end with.
Okay.
Is that cool?
Yep.
All right. All right, so we're going to hold off on the system for a second. We're going to come back to the system. Let's do the energies first, and then we'll see if the system makes some sense to us. So what kind of energy do we have in the beginning? Okay. What kind of energy do we have in the beginning?
Kinetic.
Definitely kinetic energy. Is it all kinetic energy? Is there something else?
Maybe thermal as well.
So that's a great question. So because we are only analyzing the initial and final, we don't need to take into account the fact that it had been moving beforehand. So we know that there's kinetic energy to start for sure. Okay? So let's put some kinetic energy in. All right, I'm going to go with my standard 4 blocks again. Is that cool? So 4 blocks in my bar. What about my final situation? Where is the energy now?
Gravitational.
I absolutely think it's gravitational energy. Do you see how it went up? Is that cool? All right. So how many blocks of gravitational energy are we going to put in there?
4.
All 4?
I thought you said how many ever you start with, you have to end with.
I did say that.
So yeah, 4.
But can we lose some to the surroundings in terms of the thermal?
Yeah.
And did we see the cart and hear the cart moving?
Yeah.
So I would say maybe 3 here. And then what if we lost 1 to the surroundings? Because of thermal. How's that? Does that seem okay? Are you so far so good here? All right, now, there's something about the way we did this that's important. This is fine, by the way, totally works. There's something I want to point something out is you have to have a 0 height. You have to have a specified 0 height in order to do this. So did we start with any gravitational energy over here? We did not. Which means that what was implied when we started was that the 0 height was here. So that if the car was at h equals 0 when you started, it had no gravitational energy. Is that cool? What if, however, we said, no, I want my h equals 0 to be all the way down here. How would my bar charts change? If you notice, the car is up when it starts, true? So which means it started with some gravitational energy. Let's say it started with a full block of gravitational energy. Right? So if that's the case, now how many blocks do I start with here? 4 plus 1 is 5. But what do you notice about the height of this one now? It's actually higher than it was before because it moved up higher. because you move the 0 down. So what you would do then is you would then just add under here. So we start with 5 blocks here, 1 of gravitational, 4 of kinetic. We end up with 4 of gravitational and 1 to thermal. And this is as valid as the last one. So now, we got to fill in the system. The system is either how you notice the energy or where the energy is stored. So give me one thing you know for sure is in the system. What's one thing you know for sure? Because we have some kinetic energy, so the motion of the kinetic energy. Cool. What about the gravitational energy? All right? And the question is, where is the gravitational energy stored? We talked about this a couple times last week. Where is the gravitational energy stored? We notice it in a height difference, but where is it actually stored? Does anybody remember? We talked about it a bunch. Remember this number, 10 newtons per kilogram? What is this thing? Remember that's the gravitational field strength? Remember that? So what does that mean? This is a measurement of how strong the gravitational field is. And the gravitational field is where we store the energy. And so if anytime you're going to represent gravitational energy in your system, you have to include the gravitational field. Got that, Luke?